What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another one of my creature design videos for my fantasy world building project I have been working on. Huge shout out to all of you folks out there who have been subscribing to the channel. We're finally about to hit that next big milestone of 10,000 subs, and I'm super hyped that all the work I've been putting in here is starting to pay off. So let's talk about the creatures I'm creating in this video here. First up is the classic earthen elemental, the Treant, or sometimes called an Ent, depending on whichever IP we're talking about. So these are humanoid-like tree beings that inhabit the forest throughout the world. And like the trees themselves, they come in all different shapes and sizes. So depending on the region, for instance, in a swampy biome, they would look more akin to, let's say, willow trees. Or if it's a coniferous region, they would take on a more pine tree-like aesthetic, and so on. But for time limiting purposes, I wasn't going to draw up 50 different iterations of these dudes, so this one here is just going to be a general example of this species. I used an angel oak tree as the reference because they're just some of the coolest looking trees, I think. One of the fun things about designing these Treants is that I could just be really loose with the concept because I wasn't limited to any sort of animal-like forms. I was free to just go with the flow. These Treants are very peaceful beings. They don't go starting wars or killing or doing any sort of nonsensical things like that. They act as protectors of the natural world. Guardians of the forests, if you will. But with that being said, they will get aggressive with any who are attempting to destroy or corrupt the lands they cherish. Since they are earthen elementals, they obviously have some earth-based magical abilities and can control the flora around them. They're also known for their incredible healing powers, so like your elves and druids or just general hippie folks all have reverence for these beings. Similarly to trees, these Treants can live hundreds if not thousands of years, so they are incredibly wise, and they also have the capability to communicate with the various races of this world. Speaking of the world, here's just an update on the map that I've been designing. It's still an early work in progress. It's going to take me a while to fully flesh out everything. I'll probably make a video here eventually to give a more detailed breakdown of the lore and the world and all of its regions. But I'm going to hold off on like official region names or kingdoms and towns and all that because my long-term goal with this is to turn it into an actual bestiary / world lore book. So I will have to do all that, copywriting, legal, mumbo-jumbo crap, I plan on designing hundreds of creatures for it though, so hopefully y'all stick around here for the long term. I also plan on doing some playthroughs or live streams of games here in the future as well, so hopefully that's something y'all will be interested in because my whole original idea for the channel has always been a combination of art and gaming. But anyways, here's the completed bestiary entry for the Treant. So let me go ahead and narrate its little lore entry before we move on to the next creature design. These ancient earthen elementals make their home deep within the forests across the continents. Incredibly peaceful beings, they serve as guardians to the many trees and natural wonders of the world. Like the trees themselves, no two Treants look alike and can vary from the size of a man to that of a colossal giant. Their powerful elemental ties to the earth have gifted them many abilities, such as potent healing magics or even the capability to command the flora around them. Though they are not aggressive beings, should someone provoke them by desecrating the territory they preserve, the Treant will stamp out the threat with the utmost haste. Alrighty, so now let's go ahead and move on to the next creature design. Alright, so I know people have been asking me about when I will be designing a Leviathan ever since my first video in this series where I showed y'all the behemoth, so your wish is my command. This was always one of the very first creatures I planned on designing, but because I like a nice slow buildup of anticipation, I wanted to hold off on drawing it right off the jump. As you can see from the references, the animals I'm using for inspiration are the blue whale, the sperm whale, and the prehistoric looking frilled shark. I'd say the most common design choice for these creatures has always been the more serpent-like aesthetic, but because I wanted to convey that true sense of godlike mass, I just feel like a whale-based creature is a better choice. I didn't want to make a creature that has a deadly or evil-like look to it, which I feel the serpent route would portray, but rather something that is almost divine, like if you were to witness it. It's not some vicious monster that attacks ships or anything like that, because we're just completely insignificant to it. I often think of that awesome quote by Dr. Manhattan from The Watchmen where he says, "The world's smartest man poses no more threat to me than does its smartest termite." We're nothing but a speck of dust to this beast. Now, that's not to say it's completely immune to threats or anything like that. This is a fantasy world after all, and powerful beings do exist that could kill them. Actually, one of the main adversaries of this creature happens to be another titan of the seas, the Kraken. Just like how sperm whales hunt giant squids in our world, I thought it would be cool if the Leviathans of this world would clash with the deadly Krakens. You can see I added a bunch of scars and marks there around the mouth of the Leviathan to show battle scars, just like you would see on the sperm whale. The frilled shark inspiration was mainly in its elongated body shape and tail, along with that strip of musculature along the spine, and also its teeth and almost soulless looking eyes. And you can obviously see the blue whale aesthetics in this design. With the coloring process, I fell into the trap that has always sort of plagued me with my art, and that I got super lazy and careless and didn't originally put much effort into it. But that's one of the bad habits I've really tried getting rid of this past year. So I got my shit together and I did what needed to be done. I decided to use the Leviathan from the classic Walking with Dinosaurs series as a reference for this color design. And dude, I think it turned out swimmingly, pun intended. In regards to those little tendril things, I didn't put them there for any functional or logical reasons necessarily. Sometimes I just like adding things because it looks cool, and ultimately that's my main philosophy when it comes to my art. I did keep that little glowing green look to the tips of them, so if we have to, we can just attribute them to a deep sea bioluminescent sort of thing. So those of you who are sticklers and think there needs to be a reasoning for every little detail, there you go. There's the explanation for you, buddy. And here is the completed bestiary entry for the Leviathan, so let's go ahead and narrate this sucker. An ancient sea titan, the Leviathan is one of the largest creatures known in existence. Many seafaring merchants consider it a good omen to witness these majestic beasts. They travel across the vast oceans in family pods and only mate with a single partner throughout their entire life cycle. It is very common to see these beasts heavily scarred since they constantly clash with another colossal sea monster, the notorious Kraken. Alright, so now let's move to the final creature of today's video. So here I will be designing a creature that is very common amongst all of your fantasy games out there. It's typically an early game, low level kind of adversary, the dreaded slime. I have been needing to incorporate some creatures into the series that are not just animal-like in design, and I figured what better choice than to go with these little goobers here. Honestly, I've never attempted or really even been that interested in drawing one of these gelatinous flubber dudes, but I will say I had a hell of a lot of fun sketching them up here. Who would have thunk it? I wanted to stay true to that classical green blob look and also incorporate some skull and bones into the design, which I know most slime designs have, but I like that interpretation, so that's what I chose to go with as well. Since these creatures are amorphous, you'll see that I designed two totally different looking iterations here. The first one I think I subconsciously modeled too similarly to the oozes from World of Warcraft, So the second design ended up being the one I fully rendered out. My idea for these creatures are that they aren't necessarily natural occurring organisms. Instead, they are a manifestation of dark magics that linger within the rotting corpses of powerful witches and warlocks. They magically spawn from the skulls of these cursed magic wielders, and that's why you see the skull there within the creature's design. The only way to actually defeat these slimes is to destroy said magically imbued skull. I just felt like that would be a cool and unique take on the creature. At least I think it's a unique take. I'm not totally sure because I didn't do any sort of research on their lore from other media franchises, so I'm kind of hoping I came up with something kind of unique and new here. And of course I had to throw in some swords and axes and arrows that are stuck in their bodies as leftovers from the failed attempts by your typical noob who didn't know what they were doing when trying to defeat these slimes. I really had a fun time coloring this ooze here especially, and seeing the completed look definitely gave me a great sense of satisfaction. It's funny how the designs that you end up enjoying the most are the ones that you never expected to. Let me know in the comments down below what y'all think of my slime interpretation here. And here we have the completed bestiary entry for the slime. Now let me go ahead and do my very sophisticated narrator voice, and then we'll wrap up this video. These strange gelatinous creatures are not of the natural world. Their birth is actually the result of dark magics that can occasionally linger in the body of powerful witches and warlocks after their death. Witnessing how the amorphous slime feast upon its prey is a truly horrific sight. Their acidic ooze slowly dissolves away layer after layer of their victim until they are nothing more than a pile of bones. The only way to kill these monsters is by destroying the magically imbued skull from which they spawned. And that's going to be it for today's creature design video. Do me a solid, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And also consider subscribing to the channel if you like this sort of content and want to see more from me. And if you're feeling a little extra generous and want to buy me a coffee, a little super thanks donation to the channel is always welcome. I will be posting all of my artwork here onto my Instagram art dump account down in the description box below if you want to go and give it a follow. I also am currently open to taking on art commissions, so if you're ever interested in that, send me a DM over there on Instagram. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.